We speak of Sealand, a crumb of real estate off the English coast that declared its independence in 1967.
Well, if you want an example of just how left behind some of China's poorest communities have become, there's probably none more striking than the village on top of this cliff.
People usually live in orderly places designed for convenience, with amenities close at hand. Yet scattered across the globe are astounding, eccentric dwellings where daily necessities seem scarce and comfort dubious. Still, some choose to inhabit these stark and bewildering spots. Join us as we show you the most unusual places where people live around the world. Number 20. The Principality of Sealand. In 1967, a former British military sea fort in the North Sea became the world's smallest self-declared independent nation, the Principality of Sealand. This micronation on an offshore platform has operated autonomously for 55 years, issuing passports, stamps, currency, and even fending off a hostile takeover force. The initial platform was built 7 miles off England's coast during World War II to defend against German air raids and naval attacks. After the war, radio pirates used it for broadcasting until Paddy Roy Bates occupied it in 1967. He named it Sealand, drafted a constitution, and declared independence from Britain. Sealand has its own flag, national anthem E Mare Libertas, from the sea, freedom, and a ruling royal family headed by Michael Bates, son of founder Roy Bates. The national anthem, E Mare Libertas, also serves as Sealand's motto. At its peak population, Sealand had about 50 residents on its 550 square meter platform, equipped with living accommodations, a chapel, and a pub. And like most of the countries, running Sealand is no easy task either. In 1978, Alexander Achenbach, self-proclaimed Prime Minister of Sealand, tried organizing a little hostile takeover with a few German and Dutch mercenaries. But Michael valiantly defended the fortress and sent them packing. Later, Achenbach still claimed his government in exile. While the Bates family continues to rule and print money, no other nation officially recognizes its sovereignty. Number 19. Yakutsk. Yakutsk, the capital city of the Sakha Republic in Russia, is rightly called the world's coldest city. This remote outpost deep in Siberia holds the record for the lowest recorded temperature in a permanently inhabited settlement on Earth. The average winter temperature in Yakutsk is a bone-chilling minus 38.6 degrees Fahrenheit, but temperatures have dropped as low as minus 94.7 degrees Fahrenheit, with wind chill factored in. Living and working in a place with such extreme cold presents daily challenges that are unimaginable to most people. Simply walking outside can be perilous, as exposed skin will freeze in minutes. Eyelashes and hair exposed to the frigid air can become covered in frost in seconds. Wearing glasses is impractical since the lenses will fog up from your breath and can even freeze your face. Driving requires running your engine 24 hours a day. If you stop, there is no restarting until temperatures rise, which could be weeks. Food shopping is its own adventure, as milk will arrive frozen solid and meat transformed into rock-hard bricks. The climate shapes every aspect of life for the 300,000 hardy souls who call Yakutsk home. Unique innovations allow life to continue despite the bitter cold. Outdoor markets switch to exclusively selling frozen fish in winter, since it's impossible to keep anything thawed. Schools are built using a special construction method that prevents the permafrost from melting underneath. Residents rely on central steam heat piped into homes and thickly insulated triple-pane windows to keep warm. There is a local saying, "There is no bad weather, only bad clothing," and wearing the proper cold weather gear is a matter of survival here. Number 18. Monasteries of Medora. The remarkable monasteries of Medora in Greece are built at the furthest extremes of inaccessibility, perched dramatically atop immense towers of granite, rising precipitously from the plain. Their precarious positions seem utterly improbable, defying both reason and gravity. The monastic complexes, 24 in total, have inhabited these sheer cliffs above the Peneos River Valley in Thessaly for over 600 years. The sandstone peaks on which the Medora monasteries rest began forming over 60 million years ago. Erosion sculpted spectacular tall, slender pillars of stone, rising as high as 1,800 feet above the valley floor. Hermit monks began scaling these pinnacles as early as the 19th century to seek spiritual isolation high above the world. By the 14th century, they began constructing monasteries, hauling building materials up via ropes and ladders. 6 main monasteries survive today, inhabited by small communities of nuns and monks. Reaching these celestial monasteries has never been an easy task. Before roads and steps were built in the 1920s, the only ways up were via precarious ladders or by hoisting up in nets. Today, hiking trails lead between the monasteries, each perched on its own stone pedestal with breathtaking views of the valley below. Meteora's unique landscape creates an ethereal atmosphere, seeming to float in the space between heaven and earth. Number 17. Couple in sewer. An unusual elderly couple, Maria Garcia and her husband Miguel Restrepo, have lived happily for over 20 years in an unlikely home, the sewer system underneath the city streets of Medellin, Colombia. Even more peculiar, the pair of drug addicts seem downright content with their smelly underground dwelling which others would shun. Very little is known of this strange couple's origins or background. At some point in the 1990s, they decided to take up residence together in a sewer tunnel in Medellin, furnishing it with scavenged items like an area rug, radio, and makeshift bed. Despite the dampness, darkness, rats, and stench, they transformed this forgotten corner of the subterranean world into a cozy love nest. By all appearances, this quirky homebody couple relishes their underground abode and hermit-like lifestyle away from society's bustle. Their contentment defies belief considering the sewer's noxious fumes, lack of sanitation, and frequent floods of murky water. Yet their smiles convey untroubled joy in simple pleasures like cooking together and listening to music in their hideaway haven. Number 16. Atuler Village. In the mountainous Sichuan province of China, the cliffside village of Atulie'er clings to the side of a sheer 800-meter-high cliff. Known as the Hanging Village, this ancient settlement is a truly thrilling place to live for its resilient Tujia minority residents. Atulie'er's origins trace back more than 500 years. The Tujia people chose to build lodgings on the sides of cliffs as shelter from enemies and wild animals. For centuries, 72 wind and rain bridges and rattan ladder paths were the only access to the village. In 2016, the government invested in a 2,600-step metal staircase for safety and tourism. The new stairway transformed Atulie'er from an inaccessible hamlet to a top destination drawing thrill-seeking tourists. The stomach-dropping views of the river and mountains attract many seeking the ultimate vertically challenging selfie. Local teenagers even staged a hair-raising viral video running up the stairs. While now easier to reach, life in Atulie'er remains challenging. Supplies must still be carried up thousands of steps. For children heading down the mountain to school and families traveling for work, the commute takes rigorous endurance. But after centuries of calling the cliffs home, inhabitants are accustomed to the precipitous paths of their extraordinary village in the sky. Number 15. La Rinconada. In the Peruvian Andes lies La Rinconada, the highest permanent human settlement in the world. This shantytown sits at the dizzying elevation of 16,700 feet in the Peno region of Peru, on the slopes of the Ananá mountain. Life at such extremes comes with chronic health challenges for La Rinconada's residents, yet over 50,000 call this treeless gold mining hub home. At this altitude, atmospheric pressure is only about half that at sea level. The scarce oxygen makes any physical exertion utterly exhausting, and any sickness harder to recover from. Many people suffer chronic headaches, nausea, and shortness of breath. Long-term health risks include fatal conditions like pulmonary hypertension or cerebral edema due to low oxygen. Infant mortality rates are also extremely high. La Rinconada has no running water, sewage system, or garbage removal. The average daily temperature hovers around freezing. The only reason a town arose in such inhospitable terrain is the presence of gold buried below. Around 70% of residents work as unauthorized gold miners, using mercury to extract the precious metal. Mercury poisoning poses yet another health hazard. Number 14. Tonle Sap. The largest freshwater lake in Southeast Asia is not just a natural wonder but also a home. Cambodia's Tonle Sap Lake is an entire aquatic world inhabited by over 1 million people in floating villages. This massive seasonal lake provided abundant fish for centuries, which led communities to build homes on its waters. However, in recent years, unethical tourism has posed new challenges. During the rainy season from June to October, the Mekong River swells, causing Tonle Sap to expand over 4 times in size, submerging surrounding forests. Then, from November to May, the lake shrinks again. This seasonal ebb and flow has created one of the world's richest freshwater fisheries, with over 200 species of fish. Tonle Sap's bountiful fish drew fishermen to live on its waters in houseboats and floating platforms lashed together. Because the lake level changes greatly, Houses float too, rising and falling by up to 30 feet seasonally. Residents travel between floating homes, markets, schools, and pagodas by boat. But without land for sewage systems, water pollution is an issue. Number 13. Kuber Petty. In the Australian outback, far from civilization, lies an unusual underground town, Kuber Petty. Scorching heat drove residents to start digging caves in 1915 when opals were discovered here. It may be hard to believe, but people actually live in these places. Today, 50% of inhabitants occupy dugouts carved into the rock. Temperatures in the South Australian desert can exceed 122 degrees Fahrenheit, making living above ground nearly unbearable, especially during the summer. So opal miners began excavating cave homes, mine shafts, and even underground churches and stores. This allowed living conditions more tolerable than baking above ground. Inside the dugouts, temperatures remain consistently around 70 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. Hand-dug using simple pickaxes and shovels, the caves are reinforced with wood frames and lined with bricks or concrete. Despite their rugged exterior, interiors are modern with electricity, plumbing, kitchens, and bathrooms. Some contain opulently decorated living rooms and bedrooms, yet lifestyle adjustments in Kuber Petty are unavoidable. Residents prefer underground activities to avoid daytime heat. Golfers bring their own grass to play on courses marked by oil drums, and leftover rock from mining makes building houses with walls impractical. Water is also extremely scarce, supplied by a pipeline from over 37 miles away. But the ubiquitous opals draw adventurous outsiders willing to endure the desert's harshness. Number 12. The Hanging Temple. Clinging to the side of a sheer cliff in the Hengshan mountain range of China's Shanxi province sits the breathtaking Hanging Temple. Constructed precariously on a granite cliff face 246 feet above the ground, this historic temple has defied gravity for nearly 1,500 years. Built in 491 AD during the Northern Wei dynasty, the Hanging Temple is the only existing structure in all of China that combines architecture from Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism. The oak beams supporting the 40 rooms are embedded directly into holes chiseled into the cliff's side with no foundation underneath. Surprisingly, the temple shows no signs of instability, despite being subjected to earthquakes and storms for centuries. The cliffside temple is an artistic and architectural marvel. Each chamber is intricately decorated with exquisite foliage sculptures and vividly colored paintings on the walls and ceilings. Bronze, iron, and stone statues representing religious figures such as the Sakyamuni Buddha reside inside. The Hanging Temple attracts thousands of visitors each year who are awestruck by its beauty and mystery. The precarious placement of the Hanging Temple was not accidental. It holds symbolic meaning. Positioning the temple's three sections to represent Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism shows the harmonious balance between the three traditions. This is reflected in the layout. Taoism at the lowest level close to the base, Confucianism at the highest point nearest heaven, and Buddhism between the two in the center. Number 11. Keta Torell. Tucked amidst breathtaking vistas in Chilean Patagonia lies the remote village of Keta Torell. With a population of only 320 inhabitants, this serene fishing hamlet is like stepping into a time capsule. Until only a decade ago, Keta Torell was completely isolated from the outside world with no road or land access. Before the road was built in 2008, the only way to reach Keta Torell was by boat across the Gulf of Corcovado or hiking through dense forest. Without cars or roads, the village relied on wooden boardwalks that weave between the colorful stilt homes dotting the steep hillside. Residents walked wherever they needed to go. Basic supplies were brought in by boat deliveries just twice a month. Life here remained largely unchanged for decades, with no shops, hotels, or amenities geared towards visitors or cars. The pace of life moved slowly, focused on fishing, boat building, and subsistence living. Electricity only arrived in 1999, but there is still no cellular service or bank. The village has a school, but no high school, so teens must leave for their education. Now the road connects Keta Torell to surrounding towns, yet its isolation still lingers. The boardwalks remain the main streets used by villagers carrying groceries or chatting. The lack of traffic and the distracting technology of modern life make this scenic village a peaceful sanctuary where traditional ways endure. For an experience of authentic small-town Chilean life, Keta Torell offers a window into the past. Number 10. Living like Tarzan. The jungles of Vietnam were home to a real-life Tarzan for over 40 years. Ho Van Lang fled into the wilderness with his father in 1972 to escape U.S. bombings during the Vietnam War. The pair lived in total isolation, never encountering another human being for decades. For 41 years, Ho Van Lang and his father, Ho Van Thon, survived in the lush jungle some 18 miles from the nearest village. They foraged for wild fruits and vegetables, used bark and leaves for clothing, and constructed tree houses 60 feet high for shelter. With no modern tools or weapons, they relied solely on their cunning and the bounty of the jungle. In 2013, Ho Van Thon grew gravely ill, forcing his then 52-year-old son to carry him through the wilderness for 7 days to seek help. This was the first time Ho Van Lang encountered outsiders. Doctors saved his father's life, but he died 4 years later in 2017 at age 90. His son now lives in the nearby village, but finds adjusting to society profoundly challenging. Ho Van Lang's transition has been extremely difficult after a lifetime in the jungle. Simple modern luxuries like soft beds and washing machines seem alien. He only learned to speak Vietnamese in his 50s. Tragically, just a year after reintegrating into society, he contracted terminal liver cancer, likely due to the chemical defoliants dumped during the war. Yet his decades in seclusion stand as an extraordinary tale of human resilience. Number 9. Bucharest Tunnels. Under the glittering surface of Bucharest, Romania's elegant capital lies a dark and dismal world. The city's sprawling sewer network that houses over 1,000 homeless residents. When Romania's economy collapsed after the 1909 revolution, children were the most vulnerable. This generation was driven underground into the sewers, heating pipes, and tunnels beneath the city's streets where they still live today. After the fall of dictator Nicolae Ceausescu, Romania struggled through severe economic crisis and poverty. Many desperate children turned to sniffing Aurolac, a polyurethane varnish, to numb their hunger. Inhaling its toxic fumes gave the kids a cheap escape from their hopeless realities. They became known as Aurolac kids. With nowhere else to go, gangs of Aurolac teenagers began inhabiting the labyrinth of tunnels under Bucharest's city streets and metro system. The Aurolac kids beg on the streets by day, then descend through manholes and drain pipes into the fetid underworld at night. Down below, they sleep huddled together for warmth on flattened cardboard boxes, discarded scraps their only bedding. Haunted eyes staring out from filthy faces reveal their profound suffering. Today, nearly 30 years later, the Aurolac kids remain mostly ignored and vilified by society. A few charitable groups try to help with food and medicine, but systematic aid is non-existent. Number 8. World's Loneliest House. Off the coast of Iceland sits the remote and windswept island of Elliday, home to a simple hunting lodge that has sparked global curiosity and rumors. This isolated house looks like something straight out of a mystery novel and has been dubbed as the world's loneliest house. Its solitary existence has fueled speculation that it must be the secret hideaway of a billionaire or celebrity. In reality, there is no intrigue or wealthy owner lurking on Elliday. The island was once populated by farmers and fishermen, but the difficult environment eventually drove residents away. In the 1950s, the Elliday Hunting Association built a basic lodge there for seasonal hunting trips. This sparse cabin has limited amenities and is mainly used by members of the association. While certainly unusual looking and remote, this island dwelling is not a lavish mansion or private hideout. The true story is far from scandalous. It's an unembellished outpost for Iceland's hunting enthusiasts. Number 7. Matmata. The Berber-populated town of Matmata, Tunisia, is home to an astounding underground world where residents still inhabit cave homes dug from the desert earth centuries ago. This ancient village offers a window into North Africa's past and a chance to stay in troglodyte dwellings practically unchanged for over a millennium. Matmata lies on the edge of the Sahara Desert, rimmed by palm trees and olive groves. Its cave homes were first excavated in the 10th century as protection from the scorching heat, which can reach over 100 degrees Fahrenheit in summer. Berbers, the indigenous people of North Africa, dug pits up to 65 feet deep using simple hand tools, creating sunken courtyards surrounded by tunnels leading to rooms. Over generations, Matmata's underground homes expanded into elaborate labyrinths. A typical dwelling has a central open-air courtyard, storage spaces for livestock and food, living quarters, a kitchen, bedrooms, and a guest room. Ladders or stairways provide access from above. The caves maintain temperatures around 50 degrees Fahrenheit year-round without heating or cooling. Today, some operate as hotels or cafes, giving visitors a chance to experience Berber cave life. Number 6. Setenil de las Bodegas. The dazzling white Spanish hill town of Setenil de las Bodegas has an unusual claim to fame. Many of its houses are built into cliffs underneath gigantic rock overhangs. Setenil takes full advantage of its unique location along a narrow river gorge for a stunningly original settlement. Unlike many Spanish pueblos blancos, Setenil's white houses are not situated on top of hills, but rather embedded into cliffs, using the rock itself as walls and roofs. The Rio Trejo carved a path through the soft limestone over centuries, creating 15-meter-high overhangs that provide shelter from the sun and rain. This allowed the Moors who ruled until the 15th century to construct dwellings nestled into the cliffs. Walking Setenil's narrow, cobbled streets, you'll see the reddish cliffs rise vertically like castle ramparts, with homes built right into their sides. Windows and doors painted vibrant blues and greens add pops of color. The distinctive architecture lends an intimate cave-like feel in spots like the Restaurante Cuevas del Sol, and views from miradors like Mirador del Pretorio are sublime. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. It may be hard to believe, but people actually live in these places. Nestled in the mountains of Sichuan, China lies the remarkably dense scarlet city known as Larung Gar, also called Seda Monastery. This thriving community was not always so populated. Founded in 1980 as the Serta Larung 5 Science Buddhist Academy, it grew into an overcrowded collective of monks, nuns, laypeople, and visiting learners, ballooning to nearly 40,000 residents by 2016. With this rapid influx over the years, the iconic uniformly red residences and meditation huts dotting the hills were constructed simply from brick and wood. However, these tightly packed DIY structures eventually raised safety concerns with Chinese authorities, citing fire hazard risks. Citing these concerns, the Chinese government moved in 2016 to downgrade and demolish parts of the crowded settlement. Larung Gar persists today, though altered from its peak. What are your thoughts on these demolitions? Let us know in the comments. Number 5. Villa Girasole. An architect's innovative vision led to the creation of a one-of-a-kind rotating house in Italy that turns to follow the sun across the sky. Villa Girasole, or Sunflower House, is situated in Marseilles, Italy, near Verona. It was built between 1929 and 1939 by engineer Angelo Invernizzi, who dreamed of a home that could capture the sun's health benefits throughout the day. Invernizzi teamed up with architect Ettore Fagioli to design a house that rotates on a fixed base following the sun's movements. The house sits on a concrete pillar and rotates 360 degrees over the course of the day. This allows every room equal sunlight exposure. The rotation is controlled by an electric motor in the basement that keeps the home aligned with the sun's position in the sky. Villa Girasole has 2 living levels. Bedrooms on the upper floor rotate separately from the living areas below for more precise tracking. The interior design is typical of the era's Art Deco style, with curved furniture and archways that complement the rotating structure. Invernizzi believed sunlight exposure had health and psychological benefits. The streaming sunlight would provide residents with their daily dose of vitamin and improve their moods. The rooms are also soundproofed for restful sleep, even as the house rotates. This innovative home required complex engineering to achieve smooth rotation. Concrete piles extend 15 feet underground to support the central concrete pillar that weighs 250 tons. Despite its complexity, Villa Girasole has rotated flawlessly since its completion in 1935. Number 4. Freedom Cove. Off the coast of Vancouver Island in British Columbia floats the off-grid oasis known as Freedom Cove. This sustainable floating compound took shape over 24 years as artists Catherine King and Wayne Adams hand-built a floating home from salvaged materials that later expanded into an entire seafaring village. It all began in 1992 when a storm washed a huge pile of logs onto the couple's property on Seychelles Inlet, which gave them an idea. Using the windfall wood, they constructed a floating cabin. Then, driven by dreams of an eco-friendly, ocean-based life, King and Adams began gathering other discarded materials from which to build. Piece by piece, their floating compound took form. Today, Freedom Cove contains a lighthouse, multiple floating greenhouses, chicken coops, a dance floor, a yoga platform, and living quarters all powered by solar, wind, and microhydro. The structures are connected by wooden walkways, with a tram car to transport residents from place to place. This eco-paradise in the wilderness runs entirely off the grid, with its own sewage treatment, organic food production, and recycled rainwater irrigation. Number 3. Casa do Penedo. Nestled amidst Portugal's Alto Minho granite rocks sits the whimsical Casa do Penedo, or House of Stone. Built in 1972, this charming abode incorporates 4 large boulders into its design for a rustic, hobbit-like stone cottage that blends with nature. The Casa do Penedo's low ceilings, rounded doorways, and uneven floors complement the organic shapes of its rock foundations. Inside, it contains 2 floors, a small kitchen, fireplace, living room downstairs, and upstairs bedrooms burrowed partially into the rock. With no electricity, it relies on candles and firelight, offering a simple, electronics-free retreat. This unique rock house originally served as a vacation home for a local family before opening to the public as a historic museum. The huge rocks provide natural insulation, keeping interiors cozy. But its fame led to vandalism, forcing the owners to install railings and bulletproof windows to protect it. Incorporating the existing rock outcroppings into the architecture gives Casa do Penedo an elemental, almost fantasy-like feel, transporting visitors to a whimsical hobbit hole high in the hills. It remains a beloved northern Portugal landmark, proving human ingenuity can transform natural wonders into magical homes. Number 2. Space habitats. Looking above Earth, humans have made remarkable progress in creating habitable artificial ecosystems in the void of space. Since the 1960s, space stations in orbit have allowed continuous scientific research and exploration. These include the International Space Station and China's Tiangong Station, which provide homes away from home for astronauts. The International Space Station first launched in 1998 and has maintained a continuous human presence in space for over 20 years. This scientific laboratory orbits 250 miles above Earth at 1,700 miles per hour, circling every 90 minutes. The ISS can house up to 7 crew members for months conducting microgravity experiments. China's Tiangong Space Station launched its core module in 2021, with additional modules planned. Tiangong provides living space for 3 taikonauts, who perform medical and technological experiments. Both stations have systems providing air, water, food, sleep, exercise, Wi-Fi, and science facilities. Number 1. Ecocapsule. Imagine living fully sustainably off the grid in a portable smart house no larger than a parking space. The Ecocapsule aims to allow just that, a self-sufficient, low-energy lifestyle in a compact, egg-shaped micro-home. Slovakian company Nice Architects designed these mobile 84-square-foot homes to function completely independently. The Ecocapsule is entirely powered by a dual system of high-efficiency solar cells and a micro-wind turbine. It can collect and store enough energy from the elements to provide electricity, heat, and even power an electric car. A rainwater collection system supplies fresh water which is filtered and recycled. There is a kitchenette with a stove, a bathroom with a shower, a bed, a folding table, and a bench. This encapsulated living pod allows a comfortable, modern existence with a minimal carbon footprint. Its sloped, egg-like shape and insulating polyurethane membrane help it stay cool in summer and warm in winter. Weighing under 3 tons, it can be towed to any location, from a countryside retreat to an urban rooftop. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.